Well, thank you for joining us for another week in our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. We've been marching through the book of Job. Everybody knows the book of Job. Even those that don't know the Bible know about Job and his sufferings and trials. They probably don't know much in the way of details, but they know that this is a book in which a good man suffered. And as we're going through this, we're looking at this whole situation that Job's going through. And we have found, a lot of things that he has struggled with. The devil has been able to bring great affliction to his life. And we've been looking at the dialogue he's been having with his friends since he apparently had been in suffering and struggles for a while. His friends show up. They begin to minister to him, supposedly, by not saying anything at all. And then they began a dialogue. And that dialogue has gotten very interesting. A lot of back and forth. A lot of different views. We're finding all the men have different worldviews based upon different things. And so we're looking at that dialogue and Job going back and forth with them. By the time we get to chapter 11, where we're at today, the third friend of the three major friends, shows up. His name is Zophar. And Zophar is the third one to speak. Maybe he's the youngest, I don't know. But Zophar is tired of Job making excuses, as he sees it. Job is not accepting what Zophar thinks he should accept, and he's going to really fire back at Job. As a matter of fact, as we look at Zophar and then Eliphaz later in the week, we might even label this, here's how you should not comfort somebody who's in trouble or somebody who's suffering. These men really missed their opportunities here. But let's take a look here. Zophar, in verse 2 of chapter 11, simply says, shall a multitude of words go unanswered, and a talkative man be acquitted? Basically, he's tired of Job. I'm going to answer you, Job, because you're just talking on, and you need to be answered by somebody. I'm going to do it. Verse 6, he's quite convinced that Job actually is not suffering as bad as he should. He says at the end of verse 6, know then that God forgets a part of your iniquity. Now, how Zophar knew that is beyond me. He is saying to Job, look, Job is making these excuses. He says, I'm not so bad that I should be going through this. And Zophar is basically saying, well, Job, you're worse than you think you are. Matter of fact, God has forgotten half of what he ought to be punishing you for. So he has got this insight from who knows where into Job's life, because we know from the first chapter and even the second chapter that there's not a lot of smoking guns sitting around in Job's closet. And so Zophar, I think, he's the one blowing smoke here. But then he calls Job ignorant. He says, can you discover the depths of God? Can you discover the limits of the Almighty? He's saying you're just talking. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the limits here. You don't know the depths of God. And then he calls him an idiot in verse 12. An idiot will become intelligent when the foal of a wild donkey is born a man. Now, that is not the way to help people when they're going through hard times. He's calling him names here. He's making fun of him, in a sense. He calls him a donkey, kind of like a donkey or an idiot at this time. So what does he want him to do? Well, verse 13, he is determined Job needs to repent. If you would direct your heart right and spread out your hand to him, if iniquity is in your hand, put it far away. Do not let wickedness dwell in your tents. If Job would just repent, then things would turn around for him. As a matter of fact, here's how good it will be if Job would just repent. Verse 15, then indeed you could lift up your face without a moral defect. You would be steadfast and not fear, for you would forget your trouble as waters that have passed by. You would remember it. Your life would be brighter than noonday. Everything is going to be wonderful, Job. If you just recognize your sin, repent of your sin, then God is going to fix everything for you. So what we have here now is Zophar is basically saying the same thing the other friends have said. You deserve what you're getting. Probably you should get more than what you're getting because you have sinned and you're wrong. You need to recognize that and repent of your sin. And when you do, God is going to restore all that you have lost, and things are going to become bright and beautiful. Eliphaz had that same worldview based upon mysticism. The second one was Bildad, And he had that same view based upon tradition and the wisdom from the past. Zophar seems to be relying on his own observations. He's looked around, he has determined this is how it is, and he is telling Job this is what he must do. And so the friends are all lined up to condemn Job, claiming that he is living in sin and must repent for God to fix the problems in his life. Job is not going to appreciate that so much, and we find his rebuttal in the next couple of chapters.